That was new.
What was new?
I just got a pop up saying host is
Oh,
enabled local recording.
yeah, that's a beta feature of the. What happens is, thanks for joining us, everybody. We just went live, but what happens is in the app, like it's a beta feature where you can record locally, and then
Okay.
it'll upload at the after the end and put the best stuff together. But also, if I later want to do a like an Instagram 9:16, I can actually just take your video, which
Okay.
is
Cool.
separate file, and or mine or whatever versus combo, which will make things look better. But
Cool.
yeah, there's a little out of baseball there or inside baseball, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Let me get what and that. Let me get this out of the way, and we'll get started. So, what's going on?
Hey, how are you? Happy Groundhog Day.
Oh, it is Groundhog Day.
I
My
know.
brain is so slow. So I got up in the middle of the night. I created a video on Elon Musk and his Neuralink chip.
Oh, okay.
And so that'll be going up on our Feature Tech Live channel a little later today. But so my voice is a little grumpy. So I got an extra coffee here and I'm ready to go. So we got a lot to talk about today. So let me just do the intro so I can trim the audio here. Welcome back to Future Tech, your weekly source for the latest in tech and innovation and business. I'm the startup coach, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host John Irwin.
Hey, how are you, Craig?
I'm doing great. It was a great video we did on Scale AI. Got a lot of interesting questions on Wednesday.
Yeah, really good. A lot of good feedback. It's a great program and one of those digital super clusters. So if you're for those listening, if you're looking at doing a project that is AI related for supply chain, then talk to one of us.
Definitely talk to John. I
Yeah,
I actually was talking to a founder yesterday that I'm going to connect you with on a number of funding fronts. So
awesome.
yeah, we might as well get into it. But before we do, I just want to let everybody know if they have questions for us or comments on what we're talking about, put them in the comments wherever you are. Comment on LinkedIn or Twitter or on YouTube, and we'll see them live and we can respond to them. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and let's jump right into it. What's our first story here? We're talking about the future of the internet from this article from InfoWorld. Three
Yeah,
visions for the future of the internet. So, what are these three visions they're talking about? And then we can get into it.
yeah. There's three. It's really two. It's really one vision of two different together, but we'll talk about it. So there's three primary visions in this article that they're guiding the evolution and future development of the internet. So you might have heard of Web 3, Web 3.0, which are two separate things, and then this one you might not have heard of is the semantic web. So Web 3.0 refers broadly to the next generation of internet applications and software. It encompasses the ideas from both Web 3 and the semantic web. So the goal is highly advanced applications that will make today's web, which is Web 2.0, seem basic. Now, Web 3, which is not Web 3.0, it's Web 3, refers to specifically decentralized applications and technologies built on blockchain networks. So, not, well, crypto is, so for those that don't know, cryptocurrency is built on blockchain technology, which is a distributed ledger. Web 3 is utilizing the blockchain technology, but to build decentralized applications and technologies. So this could enable trustless computing applications across finance, identity, and more through distributed ledgers, smart contracts, things like that. Now, the semantic web was first proposed by an inventor, I think his name was Tim Berners-Lee, which aims to make information on the internet machine readable through metadata tagging of relationships and contexts. So it transforms it from a database to a knowledge base. So emergent technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and improvement to data modeling are helping to progress these. They're calling it three visions, but it's really one vision that encompasses two different mergings of things. So Web 3.0 ultimately implies fully incorporating elements from these strands, especially blockchain and semantics, into kind of next-gen applications and platforms. So the future internet is taking shape as these visions combine with new version building upon innovation and addressing limitations of prior iterations. So um, they're kind of like the two are working together to kind of put things together. So um, Web3, for those that don't understand, it's not we're not just talking about websites and things like that. Like, we're talking about distributed applications and things like that that are web, that can be web based as well. So we've got distributed finance, we've got DAOs, we've got different governance models, we've got a whole bunch of different things that come into when we're talking about Web3. Now, there are some challenges around the interfaces. So the big question is how are users going to naturally interact with more complex self-sovereign systems versus today's centralized web services? So that's something that's going to be a big challenge around there. So really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I would even go farther when we say crypto. Like, I don't even think, Web3 is more about, and what we're talking about here, when we're talking about vision of the future, it's the whole immersive web. We're talking about, the metaverse, if that's what we're going to call it in the future.
Yeah.
We might not, just because Meta is branded and whatever, it might be called something else, but we're going to have immersive, personalized experiences. And this is kind of what we're talking about.
Exactly. And just to throw a wrench into everything, because I didn't bring this up here, but there's actually a paper that was published by the founder of X, or Twitter, the founder of Twitter, that talks about Web 5. So we're talking about Web 3, and he's already talking about Web 5. So there's a lot of different concepts going on. I like this concept. It's really cool. It just makes sense as to where we're going right now. If you are looking into what the technologies are and that are being developed, we've got the AI stuff, we've got blockchain, we've got a lot of large data models, we've got a lot of large learning models, we've got a lot of data that can be utilized as long as it's tagged properly. And I feel like this is the logical step to kind of exploit that. And the one thing to think about with Web 3 type stuff, not Web 3.0, Web 3, which is the blockchain stuff, is that I don't know if you remember, I think it was last year. No, it must have been 2 years ago now, where Facebook was down and all these big websites were down because there were central servers that went down. Well, if Facebook was built as a Web3 app on blockchain technology, that wouldn't have happened, because it's a distributed node. So you've got all these nodes that are kind of serving up pieces of Facebook. So if one node goes down, well, then all the other nodes are going to step up. So it's going to be good as far as resilience. It's not going to be good for malicious websites, where it's going to be difficult for the FBI to take down malicious websites. But it's going to be good. It's going to be interesting.
Now, I don't know if I agree with your assessment from a Facebook as a gone down example.
Okay.
Just because Facebook has server farms are their business, and they've got custom computing, custom power. They've got server farms, distributed server farms over the world. You're saying that, had we done something different and allowed individuals or other people to replicate the Facebook database, which is terabytes and terabytes, or if it was partially replicated, like saying something like the BitTorrent protocol, which can replicate everything, and you can pull multiple parts of. How would this kind of work in a distributed environment if the main system went down?
Well, that's the thing. With a distributed environment, there would be no main system. It would all be distributed throughout the different nodes and different things like that. Now, again, that's a smaller scale kind of example, right? So if we're talking Facebook, there would be the scale that they would need this is kind of a little bit more complex that I haven't even dove into yet. But there is that basic concept where it's everything's distributed. So if one goes down, another comes up, kind of thing, like a Hydra kind of thing. But
yeah, and I guess I mean that is ideal. If you look at blockchain and stuff, that's kind of how that's all set up to work. But when you're talking about private enterprise, we haven't yet seen a good example of a private, or I haven't.
No,
I'm not
neither
gonna
have
say
I.
we of them letting control go to such a point where like everything's distributed. That like anybody can control it. Anybody can.
Yeah, not at that scale. And the one thing, and shout out to Tracy Leparulo at Blockchain Futurist Conference. When I was there, there's a lot of, so we've got the Brave web browser, which is distributed app, which is a D app, a Web3 app. We've got a lot of startup D app applications that are alternatives to the mainstreams like Spotify's and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to see which how these D apps grow and what ones become more mainstream, and or if they do become mainstream. So we're gonna have to see, and when.
Yeah, and I remind everybody that I think the tickets just went up this morning.
I don't know. Click on registration. We'll see. They were they might have gone up today, or they're going up today. That's the thing. But we'll have to see. Yeah, tickets are going up. Nope, still. So they're going up today. So get your tickets.
For the Futures Blockchain Conference today, February 2nd, it's going up, and then I'm sure they'll still be discounted because we're still a little ways away. But get your tickets early. Every year, I get people asking me, "Hey, where can I get discounted tickets?" Like a week before the event, and I'm like, "Well, good luck now, but now's the time."
Yeah, plan ahead. This is honestly, and I know we're digressing a little bit, but this is my favorite conference of the year. Like, I'm not a big fan of Collision, but Collision's great for certain people. This is a great one because some of the talks that they go through are very technical. Like, they actually get into writing code and they go through the code, and it's really, really cool. It's really awesome to geek out. But they also have things for people who aren't that technical as well. So they've got art, they've got tech, they've got fun, they've got games, and you can learn so much. And the way that they do it is really good. They do it at Rebel. I think this year, finally, Cherry Street is now open. So there's going to be less of a traffic burden, which is going to be great. Yeah. Oh, there's Nav. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good conference. Go out, get your tickets now. We'll be throwing an after party again this year, like we usually do. So get your tickets, come to our after party, have a good time. I'll leave this going as we continue to talk about the visions for the future of the internet here. What are the challenges to be addressed? We just talked briefly about some of these of not letting go. Are there other advantages of
limitations,
hurdles to widespread adoption?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. There's interoperability, so ensuring that different decentralized networks and data standards can communicate. That will be difficult on a global scale. Usability, which is a big thing. So many Web3 and semantic apps have steeper learning curves versus today's polished interfaces that hide complexity. So that's going to be interesting to see. So I think there's going to be a big push for new UI UX kind of people, which is going to be cool. Governance. So there needs to be agreements on protocols and social consensus mechanisms to manage these decentralized systems. That's going to be challenging. Again, when we talk blockchain, people don't know, people may or may not know, but blockchains are not really known for their scalability or their
high speed performance.
Yeah, there we go. High speed performance. So the blockchains and the knowledge graphs are going to have to scale far beyond what they currently do to billions of global users. The other thing too is incentives. What's the incentive for people to start using these? So they're going to have to align economic models to incentivize participation and value creation across fragmented platforms. I know a lot of these are giving you coins for use and coins for use of your data and things like that. That's great. But the current market right now, a lot of people don't really care about that. So we're going to have to figure out how, or people don't know about it either. So that's another thing too. So the thing is maturity. So the core technologies like blockchain, machine learning, and distributed computing are still evolving. The other thing is security. So threats from hacking, fraud, and quantum computers can pose risks to adoption. Again, standards. So we're going to need standards, proven standards for identity, for payments, for metadata. That's all going to take time to coordinate. There's a lot more. There's infrastructure, there's adoption, there's skills. So workforce training. That's going to be interesting too. In areas like blockchain and semantic engineering are going to be needed. So it's going to be good. Even if it's not widely adopted for many, many years, that's good, because it'll give us time to properly deploy it, if that makes sense, and build it properly.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good, but I mean, technology is rolling forward no matter what we do. I'm not a Luddite by any means, but like I said earlier, I just did this video on Elon Musk's Neuralink chip, and it's not flattering, and I'm comparing it to Snow Crash and the drug, and I juxtapose 1984 with Brave New World, and which one are we heading towards? You talk about all these things. We had a session not too long ago where Alex was saying, hey, I'm ready for the Neuralink chip, sign me up, I'm ready to be a cyborg. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like that. So how close are we to putting our chips in their head, having these virtual reality Web3 blockchain AI generated web experiences?
Well, if you look at kind of the Apple Vision and all these XR, AR kind of glasses, like we're slowly getting there. I think we're further away from brain implants than people think, because the brain is a muscle that is widely still unknown. And so, sure, maybe this Neuralink might work in a few people, but like if he starts putting it into others, like there might be problems, because everyone's brain is different. Everyone's brain is wired differently. There may be different defects or sorry, effects. So it's and Craig, you and I did a thing on the Neuralink. Look at all the failed experiments that happened, right?
Yeah, it's not
like,
good. I didn't bring any of that up on my recent video because I can't talk about it. Like it grosses me out what
yeah,
happened to the monkeys and the testing and the animals. I just can't look at it, and
it's
it's
so sad. Yeah,
yeah. But we're here now, not there.
yeah,
And we can sit back and say that's cruelty to animals. Why can we not test makeup on an animal, but we can shove a chip in their brain somehow? That's okay.
yeah,
With all those things aside, because that's a different discussion, because I think that's wrong. Technology has to move forward, and here we are, like just a day or two ago, a couple days ago, he announced that the chip is in the first human brain. And yeah, you and I both think that it's definitely not ready for prime time, and it's scary. And is it going to be one way? Is it going to be two way? And I just, you're going to be walking around. We talk about glasses, you talk about Vision Pro, but when
yeah,
the chip's in your head,
yeah.
you're going to be getting feedback from everything without those things.
Exactly, and it's a way to be controlled as well if it's two-way, right? They can send signals to your brain, and
Yeah, I talk about that a little bit because there's questions about, who controls the flow.
yeah,
Um, somebody was joking. I was following the Elon Twitter. Someone was joking. You wake up in the morning and realize your dreams were all ads for League of Legends or something.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah,
And it's like, okay. And, where do you stop? And at what point can some other entity control whether I'm happy or sad because of the
yeah,
chemical flows in my brain? And, that might be great when you think about maybe there's an app that can help me do it myself. But at the same time, I think we're on a collision course between those two things, the technology and the government control and oversight. When we talk about blockchain and tracking and AI, they're going to say, oh, sorry, you can't buy these groceries today once we have a digital currency, because you can have these things, but
yeah.
these things, too much sodium, too much this, like we talked about the island, whatever. That's just a classic example. You can't drive today. You can't do whatever. You've polluted
Yeah.
too much. I don't know. But
Well,
it's all,
that's what it is in China. Like for Chinese people, they need permission to fly or something like that. I think it was. So we could eventually get to that where oh, sorry, you can't take your vacation because you owe this much in back taxes, or you owe a parking ticket. Like it could get to that, especially if we get to the digital ID, which we are in Canada, and the digital currency. It's crazy. It's scary.
Yeah, we're just with this whole thing, we're just one step away from you know, being born and owing the world for the breaths you're going to take.
Yeah.
So you're already, you know, a billion carbon credits in debt as a child, and you've got to figure out how to pay them back. And they're going to track you, you know, every breath you take. How, you know, what was that movie where they were tracking how much breaths he was allowed to take based on his.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, there was it was time, how much time you were
Oh,
allowed
how
to
much
live.
time? Oh, yeah, with
Yeah,
Justin
sorry, it wasn't breath.
Timberlake.
That's the one. Sorry, it wasn't breath, it was time.
Yeah.
And you know, how close are we to this now? When someone else can control these things based on policy, and the policy can change tomorrow. Is this the world we want to see?
No, it's not the world I want to see. No, but then we get into the hacking of it, right? So you've got all these hackers. So like you could potentially break the connection and then have control over it yourself, and that's a whole other discussion that we could get into. But that's the stuff that really excites me is the hacking.
Well, this is kind of why I looked at it as the comparison between, you know, the snow crash drug and the chip, is that once you got this on your phone, an app that you can hack that increases chemicals or this or that, you know, you're drugging yourself out on yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a grim future when you start talking to me about these things.
For sure. Yeah, it is. It's a scary future. 100%. Yeah.
So let's talk about this next article. Quantum batteries that charge wirelessly might never lose efficiency. So we talked recently about that nuclear battery.
Yeah.
That lasts 50 years, charges itself. What's going on with these quantum batteries?
Yeah, so this one really challenged me to fully understand. So we'll dive into it, but there's a lot of quantum mechanics and quantum physics that are coming into play here that I really need to do a deeper dive. But like, let's talk about it on a high level. We can talk about the differences and different things like that. So the article, so again, this is a theoretical concept. Okay, so it's a theoretical concept called quantum batteries, which potentially could revolutionize energy storage if proven viable. So what quantum batteries would do is they would exploit quantum effects to rapidly charge wirelessly through an electromagnetic field generated by a hollow metal tube connected to the battery. What the wireless charging does is it avoids the energy loss issues seen in conventional batteries from chemical degradation due to repeated charging and discharging cycles. So one of the proposals involves trapping atoms or photons at ultra cold temperatures within a superconducting material and then drawing the power from ambient magnetic or electric field oscillations. So unlike normal batteries, quantum batteries may never lose their charge over time if disturbances don't disrupt the delicate quantum states storing the energy. So just to get into okay, so there have been some experiments that have wirelessly charged simple quantum emitters, but there's a lot of major challenges that remain in scaling up the efficiency and connectivity over greater distance. But if it's realized, quantum batteries could fundamentally change industries like EVs, devices, and more by removing limitations on hours of usable power between charges. So kind of similar to the length of the nuclear battery, but this one needs to be charged. So kind of just to summarize, quantum batteries, they do offer an intriguing prospect of batteries that may never lose efficiency if there are key technical hurdles around their design. So the proposed mechanisms for the different types of quantum batteries are based on ultra cold atom molecules, quantum dots, superconducting circuits, and the specific electromagnetic coupling methods that have been explored so far using microwave or laser beams through a cavity or waveguide structure. So there's a lot of complex way beyond my understanding of quantum physics, quantum mechanics going on here, but really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, I've looked at this and I've got lots of questions.
Yeah.
We've got one here. What kind of distances are available for wireless charging? Is it, right beside it, or is it across the room?
I
Are they
think it's like definitely within the same room right now. But if we're talking about lasers, like we could probably do across a big room, but right now microwave, actually microwave or laser beams through a cavity or waveguide structure. So um I don't know what the distance would be for that right now. Like, obviously, microwaves can be transmitted over a long distance, so can lasers, but laser beams have to be line of sight. Microwaves, I think you can bounce it off the ionosphere. I can't remember my my education now. But anyways, they have to be beamed through a cavity or waveguide structure right now. So
they don't that doesn't sound healthy to humans.
absolutely not. Not microwaves for sure. Lasers, yeah. But definitely but how powerful are these lasers going to have to be, and what kind of structure are they going to have to be? So this is, again, we're talking something that's theoretical. Few experiments have been done. Just the experiments that have been done are on wirelessly charging quantum emitters. Not even on the quantum batteries themselves. So this, we're talking super future tech right now.
Yeah, I saw some info saying quantum batteries, they take these batteries leverage quantum effects for fast charging. Sorry, what does that mean?
So so what the quantum effects are quantum, I think, and again, I could be wrong, are quantum entanglement that they're using for this.
Okay.
um but again, so it involves trying the quantum states of particles together, or sorry, tying the quantum states of particles together, such that measuring one particle instantly affects the state of the other, even over long distances. So, what they've theorized was transmitting power through quantum entanglement could allow batteries or devices to be charged, and this gets into your remotely stuff, without any physical connections or wires. The way it works is by entangling electrons in the battery with electrons in a charging station. So you're manipulating the electrons at the station, then that manipulates the entangled electrons in the battery in a synchronized way to transmit the energy, which is like super sci-fi right now. So this could allow recharging from a battery from miles away, theoretically, if they get this entanglement. So that goes beyond what the experiments that they were doing. So yeah, the battery and charging station would need to maintain quantum coherence over long distances, which definitely becomes difficult.
So now takes on, now that I understand what we're talking about here. So we're talking about quantum entanglement, and theoretically there's no limit to the distance. We just don't know.
Yeah.
So the concept is I've got a battery plugged in at home, charging all the time, and I'm driving around in my quantum battery powered car that is charging, while it's
Yeah,
using the battery. And technically, at a quantum level, they're the same battery.
exactly. So the thing to note, though, is that quantum teleportation experiments have validated these entanglement principles, with over 1,000 kilometers, but applying it for charging is definitely far more demanding.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to what kind of power it would take to,
Yeah.
you know, do the quantum entanglement. Does it actually require power after that? Like, as far as to transmit across the distance, or does it just happen? And, is that, again, there's some weird quantum stuff that, quantum physics is magic. And so, is it, I curious, we're all curious is how all these things kind of work together from a, um, how can we possibly transmit energy over thousands of kilometers without actually transmitting the energy?
Exactly. That's the thing, and these are concepts that are quantum physics concepts, right? That we'd have to dive into a lot more. And you and I know the basics of quantum entanglement, but it's it's not so much it's affecting a proton, or it's affecting one particle that is affecting another particle that's entangled with it at a long distance. So if you're charging one, you're charging another without physical connections or wires.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I like it. There's also some stuff saying it's susceptible to environmental disturbances. Now, quantum is susceptible to any kind of disturbance,
Yes.
apparently. Like, they're so noisy. Are these batteries even more susceptible?
Who knows? It all it all depends on the complexity of it, which again, they're going to have to get it beyond the theoretical state in order to do that, or actually do some more math in order to design even sort of any kind of experience to figure that out. But again, the only experiment that was done was that a validation experiment of entanglement principles. That's it. So there's a lot more that's going to be needed. Like, we're talking, I would say we're unless breakthroughs happen, we're 50 years away from anything like this.
And we talked before about the nuclear battery,
Yeah.
and it powering our devices. What are some of the challenges of developing a long-lasting implantable device powered by quantum batteries, say like in a pacemaker or anything inside you, versus the nuclear battery?
Well, the biggest thing is the utilizing quantum mechanical effects, like quantum tunneling and entanglement, to generate that electricity. So for those that don't know, for the quantum batteries, there would be no radioactive material would be needed. I don't know what that quantum battery would be using as far as materials. But it's less about the materials and more about the quantum entanglement and how that is going to remain charged. So again, we'd have to look at how that entanglement's going to happen, how that entanglement's going to work, and then the maintaining of that entanglement kind of connection, if that makes sense. So there's a lot that comes into play. But the good thing about this versus the nuclear batteries is there's no radioactive material.
Yeah, that was always a concern. I didn't want to put radioactive material in my phone and next to my head or in my body. And but we'll have to see futurize where this goes, because this is literally wireless charging through whatever. We have no idea what kind of effect that would have, having that go through your body. Does that have any effect whatsoever? Does it actually go through your body? Is it a
That's the thing.
subspace
I don't think it
transmission?
goes through your body. That's the thing. Yeah.
But what does that mean? Is it subspace? Is it, powered by some sort of dark matter that the universe, we're only seeing, that the whole universe is actually more dark matter than the stuff
Honestly,
that we
I
see?
think it utilizes concepts that we can't even fathom at this point, as far as how that would work as far as the quantum entanglement. I think it uses it. So back in the day when I guess electricity was invented, I think that's where we're at with this, as far as quantum batteries go, where people think it's magic, people think it's hokey pokey. But I think that's where we're at right now. We're at that
Like
stage.
they say, any scientific advancement enough can be, the equivalent of magic if you're scientifically advanced enough. So maybe, but yeah, I'm looking at this as magic. But what companies are working on this, and what kind of research projects are they doing?
Yeah, so there's quite a few companies that are working on it. There's a university in the Netherlands are working on quantum batteries based on lithium ions embedded in diamonds. We've got the Oak Ridge National Laboratory that are developing superconducting quantum batteries using microwave photons. IBM is doing some stuff, so they're exploring trapped ion superconducting chip approaches. There's a company, Quera, which actually I think they're in the news recently about Quera just announced something about error corrections, I think just like yesterday or something. So they're a spinoff of MIT, and as it relates to quantum batteries, they're exploring trapped neutral atom quantum batteries for high power needs. Harvard and MIT are prototyping quantum dot quantum batteries, integrating semiconductors with 2D materials. And let's talk about some Canadian companies. Quantum Energy is focused on room temperature gas phase quantum batteries using electromagnetically induced transparency. And PsiQuantum in Canada is developing trapped ion quantum computers and applying related photon battery concepts. So there's a lot of there's a whole list. There's even more that I didn't even get into. There's some German companies, some companies in the Netherlands. I don't think there's any Chinese companies in here, but yeah.
And we got one comment says, I want one. Can I order it on Amazon Quantum?
We'll have to see. Yeah. You'll have to entangle that order. So someone else will have it and you'll have it too.
Yeah, that was, I think this is cool. I think, this is futures ahead. The nuclear battery apparently exists now. So I'm curious to see, we're going to see that before we see this, but it sounds like this is an interesting long-term solution.
Yeah, just to kind of put it into perspective, the lifespan of a quantum battery theoretically could last thousands of years versus the nuclear battery, which has a lifespan, I think, of 30 plus years. So
yeah, they were talking 50 years in the article.
Yeah.
Completely different, but definitely a step in the right direction. When you were talking about road charging and all that kind of technology where they put the chargers in the road, you wouldn't necessarily need that with this type of technology, right?
Yeah.
So this last article, as we get to it, has to do, because you're always trying to prove me wrong when I keep saying there will never be a hydrogen internal combustion. You can't convert the water to hydrogen in the engine. It's never going to happen. And then what happens is we get this hydrogen combustion engine that's supposed to change the automotive industry, and they're getting it ready to race in. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So as you know, and our listeners might know, I am all behind hydrogen. I think it's the fuel of the future for everything, aviation, for boats, for cars, for everything. And actually there was an article, I think it's Honda is going all in on hydrogen engines now. I think it's Honda. And also Rolls-Royce is testing a hydrogen jet engine. But let's talk about this. So the engine that we're talking about in question, it's a 2-liter hydrogen-fueled internal combustion engine known as the H2 ICE. And just for those that don't know, ICE stands for internal combustion engine. So it was developed through a research collaboration between this Austrian company, AVL Racetechnik, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, that specializes in racing technologies, and researchers from Hungary. So there's some impressive early test results that have shown that it can output 410 horsepower and 500 nanometers or 368 foot-pounds of torque from just a 2,000 cc of displacement. This equates to an extremely high specific output of over 250 horsepower per liter of engine displacement. Now, to put this into context for you, like, oh, wow, is that really good? The most high-performance engines today utilize around 1,600 cc and output 380 horsepower. Though, if you add some electric boosting, you can raise that to 520 horsepower. So the hydrogen engine is demonstrating performance on par or exceeding traditional gas engines from a smaller package. So a key technical achievement that they achieved for this was employing a water injection system called port fuel injection, which helps prevent premature ignition of the air-oxygen mixture and ensures proper fuel-air ratios under all operating conditions. And they've done extensive testing through simulations, and they've actually validated on a test track. But the engine's still in development, but it's already demonstrating it could feasibly compete with major endurance races like the 24 Hour of Le Mans, which is interesting because they aim to have this ready by 2027, which I don't know if you know, but it's to coincide with a new hydrogen-fueled prototype class at Le Mans. So really cool stuff. It shows promise with hydrogen. Again, we can get into the combustibility and all that sort of stuff, but we're making strides, Craig.
Yeah, looks really cool. You were mentioning Honda and GM are investing in manufacturing economic fuel cell systems more economically for hydrogen fuel cells, but this isn't really hydrogen fuel cell.
No.
And they're talking about, and I don't really know how this works, but they're talking about they want to get 250 horsepower on a liter of water.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? How far is a liter of water supposed to take you?
It all depends. Again, it's not. I guess it's not so much on how it's going to depend. Again, like it's asking like is how far is a gallon of gas going to get you? It all depends on like it's very early technology. I think it all comes down to the this water injection system that works in the in this engine. So just to kind of if I explain this, it might give you some idea. So in a traditional gas engine, you have to precisely mix air and fuel. So that's relatively easy since gasoline is a liquid at normal temperatures and pressure. But hydrogen is a gaseous fuel, and it's harder to distribute evenly throughout the air-fuel mixture going into each cylinder. So if the mixture is too rich or too lean in some cases, it can cause premature ignition or incomplete combustion. So what they've developed is this water injection system. By spraying a fine mist of water into the intake ports just before the hydrogen gas enters each cylinder. So it's a mixture of the water with the hydrogen gas in order to it mixing to help with the air hydrogen charge, which has two effects. It stabilizes the flame front as the combustion begins. And the water molecules attract and slow down the hydrogen molecules to help ensure an evenly distributed air-fuel mixture. And the reason why I explain that is because it all comes down to like a liter of water. It's all going to come down to how efficiently they're going to be able to use that water in these engines. So as of right now, I don't know what the range is on a liter of water, but that's a great question. Something I'll definitely look into for sure.
So you've talked a little bit about how the water injection system works in the hydrogen combustion engine. What are the potential challenges or limitations in developing or implementing? When can I be driving one of these?
So the biggest thing is obviously infrastructure. So building out hydrogen refueling and production infrastructures takes significant amount of time and investment compared to gasoline because it's not so much of just like you can't just put like an EV charging station at the thing. Now, where I was thinking we could do this is obviously you have these propane tanks that are at these gas stations. So you can maybe just replace those with hydrogen fuel tanks. I don't know. The other thing is because the reason why I say I don't know is fuel storage. So storing these gaseous or liquid hydrogen is going to be a thing, but also storing them on board vehicles is going to take specific tanks. It's going to add weight. It's going to add complexity. So there's a lot more improvements that are going to be needed in fuel storage, not only in the vehicle, but also in the infrastructure that's being built. And then talking about how far does 1 liter of water efficiency? So converting hydrogen's energy to mechanical work through either fuel cells or combustion is still at this point less efficient than gasoline engines. So more efficient components and chemistries are going to be needed to be developed. The other thing too is engine durability. So the effects of hydrogen combustion on material, seals, valves, and other small engine parts, it's not fully understood long term right now because this is all new. So a lot more testing is needed. And again, cost. And this is one for you, Craig, perceptions. So despite advantages, public awareness, and understanding of hydrogen that is lower than battery electric, so creating challenges for acceptance and policy support. So there's a lot more responsiveness. There's a lot of challenges that need to be overcome, but I think like with this engine that's built, like we're on that path. Like it's now outputting the same, if not more power than an internal combustion engine using gasoline.
Yeah, this looks interesting. I know I'm looking here. Honda and GM they've already started to mass produce hydrogen fuel cells at their joint facility in Michigan. They're estimating that 2,000 units per year being starting to be sold by middle of the decade, which I'm not 100% sure. Are they pre-done by 2025 kind of thing? Because we're talking about the race engine in 2027
Yeah.
for the Le Mans race. So this does change some things around the grid problem for charging your electric car and whatnot. But what's it take to do these hydrogen fuel cells? Is that going to be, are we going to be storing a bunch? You just have one tank. I'm curious as to how these are going to be done, and then what the cars have to look like. So, do you have any idea on whether it'll be refueling, whether it'll be swapping whole fuel cells in and out when you show up somewhere?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, well, there actually are hydrogen cars on the road right now. BMW has one on the road. I think there were 5 sold last year, and they look like regular cars. Now, with those ones, the recharging or the refueling is through a similar kind of gas nozzle, but obviously it's got to be a lot more secure. It's got to be a closed system, so there's going to be a seal there. But I think so. We talked about EVs and how you could do battery swapping, but it's not a viable option at this point. I think that's going to be the same thing with hydrogen and fuel cells. I think we're going to start with we're going to have tanks in the cars potentially, or potentially converting water to hydrogen through electrolysis. I don't know if there's going to be technology that will be developed for that. So then all you have in your tank is water, and that gets converted as opposed to hydrogen. But who knows? We can't do that right now. That's not a possibility. But if we're talking about refueling, I think right now it would be more of a, like, you go up to a gas station and the gas station's a big tank of hydrogen, and you fill up your car. And that's what the current cars are. But I think with fuel cell, I don't know. I haven't dove into what are the challenges specifically around around fuel cell and changing those out and things like that. But there's definitely that's definitely an option. And I think if they look at both at the same time, they push one to get the adoption, and then they push the fuel cell because it might be safer or something like that going forward. I don't know.
So with the results of the combustion of hydrogen is water from the existing cars, there's an excess amount of water that comes out of the exhaust. So if you're driving down the highway, the person behind you gets sprayed a fair bit. I'm a little concerned, like they are going to have to do something about that. It's no big deal in California, but it's the middle of winter here. Like, so the car in front of you literally would be icing up the road as you're driving it. So you'd have to be taking a look at some of these things, because under other circumstances, it's not really a big deal, but in winters and whatnot. So, and the engine, apparently, when you punch it, whines pretty high right now, but that's probably just the way of the compression of the hydrogen coming out of the fuel cells and whatnot, but it might be something else. This is great technology because it's really giving us alternative for a zero emission propulsion.
Much more sustainable over EVs, for sure.
We still have to create the fuel cells, and that may or may not be zero emission, so it's hard to say. Yeah. And for the record, when I say we won't be doing internal combustion hydrogen engines, I'm talking about what we won't be doing is what John just talked about, which is hydraulics, creating the hydrogen in the car, because that's the problem. It's more energy to create the hydrogen than the hydrogen combustion gives off, so it's a net negative. Which is why we have to do solar and wind and other things to create the hydrogen. And that's what they call green hydrogen. We don't have to, but that's ideally the goal, is that you can create this hydrogen with these extra surges of power, like when you're not using it and all that, and bam. So I think it'll be interesting. Go ahead, John.
The one thing I thought about is, and this obviously would take some extra energy, but if you're in the north, like here we are in Canada, and it's cold, maybe just heat up that water, and so it outputs steam as opposed to water. So because the exhaust that's coming out of your car is hot, so maybe we could figure out a way just to keep that hot, and so it comes out as steam, and you can have a nice steam bath.
Yeah, I'm sure there's ways of doing it, but again, steam is not necessarily a good thing, because if it comes out of steam, that could hurt somebody if they're too close. There's all sorts of things, right? So the concept is good, love it, and it may not be an issue. I've never been behind one driving on the highway in the winter, but this is what I've heard from people in California.
Yeah,
this has been a great show, John.
Yeah.
What do you got going on?
Yeah, so I've got can I post in here? Let me see. Nope.
What are you trying to do?
I was trying to post the link to, it's on February 21st at Creator Club in Toronto. On we're doing a roundtable discussion where we're going to talk. I'm sharing the stage with some phenomenal people. And
Daniel?
What's that?
With Daniel?
With Daniel, with Ryan, with Fariel. So we're talking HR, we're talking branding, we're talking funding. It's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited for this one. So that's exciting coming up next week, which is the week of February 6th. I'll be at NGen. If anyone's going to NGen, the N3 Summit, I'll be there on the Thursday. So come by, say hi. I'll be going there with Alex from Consulta, which you know very well, Craig.
Yeah, definitely go by and say hi. I'm trying to look, as you're saying this, I was trying to find it on their site. But if you post it, if you have the link, you can post it in the private chat, and I'll throw it up there.
Yeah.
While we're talking.
So here's the NGen N3 Summit, and I'll post the other one too.
Fantastic. Oops. Well, actually, why don't I load it up right here in this window so people can see it.
And then here is the event that I'm taking part in the roundtable.
Okay, is that are they not the same?
No.
Okay.
That next one is the roundtable that I was talking about with Daniel and Fariel. This is the summit on February 8th next week at Toronto Congress Center. The other link that I posted is that's for the roundtable discussion at the Creator Club Studios and event space. So really interesting.
Great. And we've got a lot of stuff going on over at Toronto Starts. We always have stuff going on. February 14th is our co-founder matchup. It's rounding out pretty nicely with Futurepreneur and Consulta. If you're looking for a co-founder or are a solopreneur, come on out. It's going to be a great time. If you want to work with me, I work with startups, help them grow, get over obstacles, keep them accountable. Check out startupcoach.ca to book a time or book a discovery call. We do monthly startup investor drinks. Go to startupdrinksto.com to find out more about that. Almost all of these links are at torontostarts.com, and we post new content there every day. Any final words before we give it a go for the rest of the day, John?
No, I will win you over on hydrogen. That's my goal. So
I love the concept of hydrogen. I think it's great. I just don't think we can create it in the car.
No. I don't think so.
And today we'll see. We're doing all this quantum stuff. We'll have to see how all this works. If we have a quantum entangled hydrogen tank, okay. Well, why not? What's the difference?
I love it. Love the crazy.
What's the difference? Like, honestly, I have to start thinking about. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching Future Tech. Check out the Future Tech podcast, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Craig.
And now we